Hello everyone, I hope you guys are having a great day today. Today's video is going to be a full overview of my blush collection. I have so many blushes here. I usually do an updated inventory count every quarter of the year, so this might be a little bit more than the last update I've had. However, I have so many blushes to get through. I think we should just get into it because there are so many. If you're new here, hi, my name is Vivian. I'm a robotics engineer with a love for all things beauty and makeup related, and I'd love it if you like and subscribe if you aren't already. With that being said, let's just hop into it. So for my blush organization, I have these split up into liquids and creams in stick form. I have another section of cream blushes in pan form, and then I have all of my powder blushes. Some of these are shade duplicates, so I have multiple shades of the same blush formula, and so I'm gonna talk about the formulas together. Let's start off with all of the creams. I have so many, okay? Maybe even an excessive amount, but let's just get into it. I am gonna talk about all the liquid blushes first. Let's categorize all of these together. Let's go from least opaque to most opaque, okay? The first three are these three right here. The first one is the Her Moist Ampule Blusher. This is a Korean beauty brand. This is very much a serum-like texture, very thin, very sheer. So for me, this isn't a blush that I tend to reach for. I feel like if I'm going to reach for this, it's going to be on my absolutely no makeup days. It's not something that I tend to reach for also because of the packaging. You have to pump it out, and then because it is so sheer, if you use a sponge, it immediately gets soaked up. You are getting no product on there. A brush is definitely the way to go for this product. I think that in the demo clips, I used my finger first, which didn't really work out well, and then I used my brush, which is probably the best method for this. I do think it is pretty. It is very glowy. It is very moisturizing as well because of that serum-like texture. So if you are interested in something like that, I think this is an option. I just don't reach for this as much as I probably should, and I have other blushes in my collection that I prefer over this one. A liquid blush that I prefer much more is actually the Benefit Benetint. I think this is stunning. This is one of my favorite blushes for no makeup days. I typically just dab a little bit on my cheeks and use a blush or a brush to blend it out, and it looks beautiful every time. I also like this as a lip stain as well. I do feel like though this doesn't actually stain your skin, which some of my other like K-beauty products do. This does wipe off with just like makeup remover, so that is a good sign, but this does last really well if you're not using makeup remover on it. I've worn this on really sweaty days where I'm just putting a little bit of makeup on and it just looks so beautiful. I also really like the tone of this, the shade of this. I feel like it is so universal, and this is not a new product whatsoever. It still holds up to the hype. It is so beautiful. I truly like this. This is probably one of my most favorite blushes. And the last thing, liquid blush that is sheer that I have is the Euphoria BYO blush oil. This is in my project pan. I am trying really hard to finish up with it. I think I probably have like 2 more months usage out of this. This is a chemical changing, like a pH changing blush, so it always ends up this bright pink. I know that a lot of people don't like that. I personally do. However, I don't support Euphoria as a brand anymore, so even though I have this and I have used up a lot of this, I am really just trying to use it up, get it out of my collection, and not really support them as a brand anymore. I think it's okay. I don't think that you need to run out to get it. I think if you're gonna get a liquid blush, I much prefer the Benefit Benetint, and this one is much more of a gel consistency, and I feel like if you don't blend this out immediately, it does stain and it leaves like a mark, and I don't love that about this. I feel like there are other products out there that are better than this. The next products I want to talk about are the Say Dew blushes. I have 2 shades here. I have the shade Spicy and I have the shade Baby. These are really pretty formulas. I feel like they blend out really easily. I like that they are a doe foot applicator. I am a big fan of that, especially with these like whipped texture type of blush formulas. I feel like they are just beautiful. These are quite dewy for that like whipped texture type of formula, so I definitely feel the need to like set them down with a powder afterwards. However, they are really stunning. I love both of these shades. This the shade Spicy is a really good like summer sunburnt blush shade for me. And then you guys know I love my cool tone pinks, so Baby is also very, very good for me. I also have this from CL, which is the Blush and Protect SPF 50. This is a similar type of texture where it has that moussey feel to it. The shade is in the shade June. I like that it has added SPF. This blends out really easily. It is nice and sheer, but you can build it up to a full opacity if you want, or like a fuller opacity if you want. This shade is a really pretty like sunburnt shade for me as well. It's not my absolute favorite shade out there and not my absolute formula out there, but for days when I'm going to be outside, I like knowing the fact that I'll have a little bit of added SPF protection. So I do like this. I think the formula is really good. It doesn't have a sunscreen smell or anything like that. I think it is a good option and I do enjoy using this. I also have the e.l.f. Camo Liquid Blush here. This is in the shade Dusty Rosé. This is the blush I'm wearing underneath the powder blush that I'm going to talk about. I like the formula of this a lot. I feel like it is nice and blendable. It's a little bit more liquidy, like not as moussey as the other two that I was just talking about, but not as liquidy as some of the other ones either. It is a good, just like normal liquid formula. I don't love this shade on me. I feel like it is slightly too peachy for what I typically reach for. However, I don't think it's too peachy. I do feel like this is still a good shade for me. It is just not my favorite that I reach for all the time. This is a really good formula. It's also super affordable, so I think you really can't go wrong with it. I do really like this, like the formula, and I like these much more than the Rare Beauty ones. The next product I have here is the Glossier Cloud Paint. I have this one in the shade Storm. I love the Glossier Cloud Paints. I think that's a great formula. I think it is so easy to blend out. I like that you can mix colors if you want. Like the whole idea of the paint tube mixing thing is really nice to me and makes me feel like I have a little bit more control. I do have the same qualms about the packaging as the bronzer cloud paints, and it's just that I just prefer a doe foot applicator. I want something that I can just stamp directly on my face if it comes in a liquid formula. I don't love the idea of having to like squeeze this out. That is just a purely personal preference. The formula is still really good. It is that like gel-like formula that blends out really easily and still has a good amount of pigmentation to it. So I really like the Glossier Cloud Paints. I would consider getting a different shade if I didn't have so many blushes in my collection. The next product I have here is the Juicy Pang Blusher. I actually really, really like this formula. It blends out really nicely. It has a really good amount of pigment to it. I love the formula of this. If you open it, it has like a nail polish type of wand, which seems a little bit scary, but I love the shade of this. This is such a pretty summer shade for me. I think this is a gorgeous formula and it is relatively affordable being a K-beauty product. I think this is a really good product. I really like it. I highly recommend you checking it out, and I just kind of think the packaging is kind of cute. The two most pigmented blushes in my collection. The first one is this little mini size of the Rare Beauty blush in the shade Happy. I think this blush is really pretty. It is really pigmented. I used up a full Rare Beauty blush or a full mini of the Rare Beauty blush a while ago in my project pan, and I think this formula is just so pigmented. I don't love that you have to be so careful with it. I feel like you have to put it in your palm, use a brush to pick it up in your palm, and then tap it on. And even then, I feel like it can be a little bit too much. I feel like if you just dot it under your skin, it dries down too quickly and it leaves a little stain on your face. So I don't love that about this. I think the shade of it is pretty if you want a really long wearing blush. This is her. She is very long wearing. It's just for me, it's too finicky for me to want to use all the time. I do like the shade Happy. I do think it's pretty. It's just not my favorite blush formula. And for such a high pigmented blush, I feel like there are better formulas out there. Namely, the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Cheek Tint. I have this one in the shade 41. This is just as pigmented as the Rare Beauty one. So pigmented. However, the texture of it is much more of a moussey like gel texture, and so I feel like when you dot one dot on your face, you have time to blend it out. You don't have to do the whole putting it in your palm, mixing it, putting it on your brush, things like that. I literally do like 2 dots on my face and take a brush and blend it out, and it looks beautiful, and it has a really good pigmentation as well. I think this is a really pretty formula. I think it lasts all day as well. I just prefer this one over the Rare Beauty one so much. I think this is such a good option if you want a high pigmented, long wearing liquid blush. It is definitely more expensive than the Rare Beauty one, but for ease of use, I much prefer this one. I have a couple of blush sticks in my collection. Honestly, not a ton. I have 4 of them. I first have the M Cosmetics So Soft blush in the shade Bitten. This is a really pretty kind of sunburnt shade for me. I love this in the winter as well. It has this like berry undertone that just looks so pretty on my skin. This is super pigmented, incredibly pigmented. You need not even a full swipe. For me, I think the way to go is to pick it up with a brush from the stick itself and not swipe directly on the cheeks. Even if you do swipe it on the cheeks, it does blend out really nicely. It's just easier to control the pigmentation if you use a brush. I do love this. I think the shade of it is so nice. I have had this for a while in my collection, and every time I use it, I'm like, wow, she is pretty. So I love this blush. I think it's a really good option and one of the more favorite blush stick formulas I have. This next one is from Persona. This is the blush in the shade Bubble. This is the blush multi-stick in the shade Bubble. This is not my favorite blush stick. I feel like this is slightly too emollient to be able to swipe directly on the cheeks. I feel like it is too sheer as well, so I just find it to be a little bit patchy. I don't love this. I love the shade Bubble. Just the blush stick is not my favorite formula. I much prefer the powder blush in the shade Bubble over the blush stick. However, sometimes I do like to layer the 2 shades together because they are the same shade. So the Persona blush stick's not my favorite formula for blush stick out there. I think there are better options. Yeah, not much else to say. The next product I have here is the Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks blush stick. I have this one in the shade Pop It. I think this is a really pretty pink. I think the formula is okay. It is a cream blush. I think it has good pigmentation. I think it has good wear time as well. I love the packaging of this. It has this magnetic lid that just feels so satisfying to put on. Big fan of the packaging. The blush is just okay. It's definitely not my most reached for. It is a good blush, but I don't necessarily think it's worth the price that Westman Atelier charges, because just this is like $50. So yeah, I don't think I would repurchase this again. However, this is a nice product. There's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't make me like super excited to use it either. The next product I have here is the Milk Makeup Cooling Water Jelly Tint. I have this one in the shade Chill. This is much more of a stain type of product, and the texture of it is this jelly-like type of consistency. I actually really like this. I think this is a super fun, innovative formula. I feel like there's definitely some K-beauty influence in here. I love this as a lip stain as well as a cheek stain. For the cheeks, I typically go in with a brush and pick it up with the brush just to really control the stain. This does dry down extremely fast. So definitely go in with a brush. Don't just swipe it on your cheek. You're not going to be able to blend it out afterwards. However, I do really like it. I think the packaging of it is also really cute. It's just a good product. I know some people don't like it, but I think it is really innovative. It's nothing like we've seen in the market in a while, honestly, and I just think it's a really good formula. The next blush I have here is the Merit Flush Balm in the shade Mood. This is a really pretty, really sheer blush. It looks really natural on the skin, but it has a nice amount of pigmentation where it does still look like you're wearing blush. I do like the formula of this. I hate the packaging of this. It's just so chunky. I would rather have something tall and skinny than something short and fat like this. I do know, however, that my mom loves this formula. She loves that she can just swipe it on her cheeks and it looks flawless every single time. You really can't go wrong with these shades either. They're all really pretty, like neutral toned. I feel like Merit does a really good job of shade curation. This is just not something that I reach for over some of my other cream blush sticks like this. Also, you can't like roll it down at all, so whenever I put on the lid I have to be a little bit more careful of like placement because I don't want the cap to dig into the product, but that is just like mostly a me thing. I do think it's a pretty formula. It's just not something that I reach for a ton. I have two of these Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veils from Makeup by Mario. I have the shade Pinch Me Pink, which is this one, and I think I have something rose that I actually have packed away for my trip right now, so I don't have it with me to show you. However, I think these are really stunning formulas. Blend out super easily. I love the shades of it. I love the opacity of it. Just a really good formula in general. If you like the Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer, these are very, very similar. So love this. Definitely would recommend. I don't think I needed two shades of it, but I do have them. They are pretty. I will continue to use them. I have two shades of the Rose Ink Lip and Cheek colors. I have the shades Ophelia and Foxglove. Ophelia is this really pretty, just normal pink shade. I feel like they're actually very similar to the shade Pinch Me Pink. You can see I hit pan on this. This is one of the first products that I hit pan on during my project pan. Yeah, I feel like these are really, really similar colors. This one is a little bit more cool tone, but it's kind of that same like depth to it. I think this is pretty. I like the formula. It is nice and thick, so I feel like it has pretty good longevity as well, and I think it blends out really, really nicely. So that was Ophelia. This is Foxglove. I definitely haven't used Foxglove as much as I have used Ophelia, but I also think this is a really pretty summer shade as well. Definitely like a sunburnt shade for me, but really pretty. Like the formula. This one is honestly probably getting kind of old. You can see, maybe you can see, but I can see that the oil is starting to separate from that top layer, which is probably a sign that it is going bad. I do like the component of this. Oh my god. The component, just the magnet. Oh my god. What the heck? The glue just came undone. So maybe it's just too hot in my room right now. It is quite toasty, but that's crazy. That's never happened to me before. I still think the formula is really good, but maybe that is a sign that this packaging and this blush just like need to go soon. I have never had that happen before. That was crazy. And now it won't close. Okay, I'll have to figure that out another time. The next blush is the Milani Cheek Kiss Cream Blush. I also have pan on this. This is in the shade 110 Nude Kiss. This is an okay cream blush. Good for the drugstore, not my favorite cream blush out there. I feel like it is too emollient. I feel like it fades really, really quickly. The shade of it is nice and it is nice and pigmented. However, it's just not a product that I would recommend if you want like a good long wearing cream blush. I feel like there are other options out there and this is just a little bit too emollient for my tastes. I also have the Rare Beauty Nearly Neutral Melting Blush. This is much more of that powder like finish. It is so sheer, honestly not worth it. I feel like there are other blushes out there that do more, that are more pigmented, that also have that powder formula that I just prefer over this one. So this one's not my favorite. I have it. I like the packaging. I think the packaging is really cute, but I don't have anything super nice to say about the formula. Like it's not something that I rave over. It's just, it's okay. And then I also have this Phytosurgeon's Skin Spark in the shade Sublimate. This is a really, really pretty formula. It is so incredibly pigmented. So when you're putting this on, be careful. I put on way too much in the swatch that I filmed and I really had to like take my sponge and tamp it down because it was so incredibly pigmented. This formula is really nice as well. It is long wearing and long lasting. I like the shade Sublimate a lot. I feel like it is very summer sunburnt blush shade for me. I haven't used this in a while and I feel like I should pull it out again because it is that good. I also have this blush from Refi. This is their cream blush in the shade Cherry. Also a very, very pretty shade. Definitely red toned, but not too bright like this other blush that I had. This is from Lila B. This is the Divine Duo Lip and Cheek in the shade Be Fearless. You can see the difference in tone here. This blush is so much more kind of neutral tone, whereas this is a bright like fire engine red. They're both good formulas. I think they both have really good pigmentation. I like the Refi shade a little bit more than the Lila B shade. However, they both are really pretty. Lila B isn't even a brand anymore, so you can't get this anymore, but I do think it is pretty. Another cream blush that I can't find right now is actually the Victoria Beckham Beauty Cheek Posh Stick in the shade Fever. That is also really pretty. I think that has a gorgeous pigmentation to it. It's this really pretty like red orange shade, and I don't feel like it's too coral. I think it's a beautiful formula. Victoria Beckham's blush formula and packaging is always beautiful. I think that it is a really good option. Quite pricey, don't get me wrong. It is worth a pretty penny. However, I do think it's really pretty. I do think that people would like it. And then the last cream blush I have in my collection is this one from Tower 28. This is the Beach Please cream blush in the shade Power Hour. Also a really pretty sunburnt blush shade. I feel like if you've been on the internet for a while, you've heard of these blushes. They're so good. They're so pigmented. They last a good amount of time for being how emollient they are. They are nice and glowy. I think this is a stunning, just good cream blush formula. It's not like my all-time favorite. I prefer something that has a little bit more staying power, but I think it's a really good option, and it's relatively affordable for some of those higher end brands. I think it's a good option. I think the shade Power Hour is also really pretty. I love that sunburn shade on me, especially in the summer. I think it's just a stunning, stunning formula. I had to take a little bit of a break because my camera battery died. Anyway, let us get into all of the powder blushes in my collection. To me, powder blushes are kind of the same, but different. There are some that are more pigmented than others. There are a couple that are just a little bit more blurring, but for the most part, I feel like there aren't a ton of huge differences in powders besides their like finish. So I definitely don't need this many powder blushes. I definitely feel like this is maybe a bit excessive, but I do like most of them. So the first two that I'm going to talk about are these two from Patrick Ta. These are the Double Take cream and powder blushes. I have the shades She's So LA and then Just Enough. So She's So LA is this really neutral brown color. I love this for like an everyday neutral blush moment. And then I also have the shade She's Enough, which is this cooler toned pink. Not as bright as some of the other cool tone pinks that I have in my collection, but still bright enough. I think these are really, really pretty. I love the Patrick Ta formulas. I feel like both the cream and the powder are both beautiful on their own and together, and I love that you get the versatility of having both components in one like packaging. These are kind of expensive, but it's not the most expensive blush that I own, and I do like both of them a lot. If I were to lose my blushes, this is one of the formulas that I would repurchase immediately. I just feel like they're both stunning and definitely worthy of the hype that they have gotten. I think they're just beautiful. A blush that I don't think is necessarily worth the money, but I still do like, is this one from Gucci. This is the Blush Debutée in the shade 05 Rosy Beige. To me, this is just a powder blush. Its packaging is beautiful. I like the packaging, but the blush itself, I just feel like is nothing very significant. Honestly, I feel like the formula extremely close to my Essence the blush, and this is like $4. This is $50. So in terms of price range, like I feel like you can get really similar looks for way less money. Like if you're buying a Gucci blush, you're buying it for the packaging and for the brand name. I just don't think that the formula itself is anything to write home about. It really is just a powder blush. I think it's pretty. I just think there are a lot of powder blushes out there that are very similar. Speaking of the Essence the blush, you guys know this is my all-time favorite blush formula from the Drugstore. I feel like it is just so good and so nicely pigmented without being too pigmented, and they're so affordable. My favorite shade is the shade 20 Bespoke. My packaging of this is completely destroyed. There's like absolutely no fixing it. And then I also have the shade 40 Beloved. 40 Beloved is a more pinkier shade, whereas Bespoke is much more of that like sunburnt color for me. I love both of them. I feel like these are such good blushes. The blush that I'm wearing on top of the cream e.l.f. camo blush is this one, and I feel like they both complement each other really, really nicely. And it's a $4 blush. I think maybe even $3. It's a $3 blush, and they're just really good for the price. The only thing is the packaging, trash. Literally breaks every single time. All of my Essence packaging has broken, and I feel like that does deter me from bringing this on trips with me, and I do travel quite a bit, so I don't use these as much as I probably would if the packaging was just a little bit more sturdy. However, they are a stunning formula. I love them, and I feel like if you want a really good, affordable powder blush, these are a great option. I have a couple more drugstore blush formulas. I also have this one from NYX. This is relatively new. This is the Buttermelt blush, and I have this one in the shade Back and Butter, and it's described as a deep rosewood. I think this is a really, really pretty blush. It's not too pigmented. I feel like it has a really nice, soft, like satiny feel to it. I just think it's really pretty, and I think that it does a really good job of blurring, and I like the packaging of it as well. This is like pretty new to my collection, so I don't have my full thoughts on it yet. I do like it though from the couple of times that I've used it. I do think it's really pretty, and it's drugstore, so it's relatively affordable and easy to access. And then the next formula I have are both from ColourPop. These are the pressed powder blushes. I have the shade Prairie Air, which is this really bright cool tone pink, and then I have the shade Forever Yours, which is this really pretty kind of brighter red tone. Not super red, like I still feel like it's wearable, but I love these. I pull the ColourPop Forever Yours out pretty much every February just because I love the heart shape. I feel like it's so cute. It's a little bit chunky for a blush, but honestly the packaging makes it so worth it. I just think it's adorable. The normal ColourPop blushes are very pretty as well. These are quite powdery. There's quite a bit of kick up when you apply these. However, they blend out really easily. They look really nice on the skin. They last a relatively long time. You can maybe see, I don't know if you actually can, but there's like a decent divot in there from me using this a ton, which just goes to say that there is a lot of kick up. However, I think these blushes are stunning. I do really, really enjoy them. I have a couple shades of the Vive Sunset blushes. I have the shade Cherub, which is this pinker shade, and then I also have the shade Rosa, which is a little bit more of a neutral mid-tone pink color. I think these are really pretty. I think the formula is really nice as well. The component is beautiful as well. It's this like faux leather. It has a big mirror. I like these a lot actually. And then I also have a face palette from Vive with 3 more blush shades of the blush formula, and I just think they're really pretty. They don't have a ton of kick up. They blend out really nicely. They last really well. I wouldn't say they're super blurring, but I do really like them. I remember taking this one with me to Australia, and I thoroughly enjoyed having that in Australia with me. I just think they're really pretty, and I think the blushes are very nice. And the packaging is nice as well because it has this magnetic closure, which just always feels so luxe to me. I love a good magnetic closure packaging. I also have 2 shades of the Dior Rosy Glow blushes. I have the shades 001 Pink, which is the cool tone pink, and then I have the shade 015 Cherry, which is a brighter red. Are you sensing a theme here of what colors I enjoy wearing for blush? I feel like they all are kind of the same, but different. Blush in pink is one of my all-time favorites. I feel like the ColourPop and the ColourPop are very similar in terms of shades in my collection. And then I also have these ones from Nabla. These are the close-up blurring powder blushes. I have the shades Lucky Rose, and then I have the shades Endorphin, which aren't exactly the same, but still really, really similar. I feel like those two are pretty close. Actually, I kind of want to compare all of these to each other. Do you think those are all the same, but different? Because I do. I will say the Dior blush has this really pretty luminescence to it. I feel like when you apply these to the cheeks, there's just something about them that is just so stunning and just so like ethereal. Don't know what it is. I think there is just that little bit of a pearl running through it, just so subtle you barely even notice it, but it is really, really pretty. I also really like the Nabla close-up blurring powder blushes. I don't think they're super blurring, but I do think they're really nice powder blushes. They last really well. They have a really nice amount of pigmentation to them. Definitely a really good option. I also really like how compact these blushes are, and I like that it has a nice big mirror in here as well. I know that mirrors make it harder to recycle products products, but I travel so much, like I just need to have a mirror in my packaging just so I can be able to travel with these products and not have to worry about bringing an extra mirror. I mean, you guys know that I love Dior 001 Pink. This was probably one of my all-time favorite blushes. I've worn out most of the impression on this already, which I feel like is really hard to do because there is not a lot of kick up on this product. It just has this really pretty, very, very soft, subtle glow, and it just always looks beautiful, and I love this shade on me. It ends up looking more warmer on my skin than it does in the pan, but I honestly really, really like that. I think the Dior blushes are really, really good. I don't think you need to spend Dior money if you just want that shade. I feel like Persona Bubble is a really close alternative, and there are a lot of cool tone pink blushes out on the market now. This ColourPop one is also really, really good as well. So I really like these. I don't think you need to spend that much money on them, but if you want to spend that much money on a blush, it is really pretty. I do recommend them. And then the Enamel blushes are also just really good. I like the formula of these a lot. The one thing I will say is that I have gotten hard pan on the shade Lucky Rose, so I need to scrape that off, but the products themselves are really pretty. I do really like these shades. I think they're really versatile and they're not too pigmented, so I don't feel like I'm going overboard with my blush. The next blush I have here is the shade Bubble from Persona. This is the Super Blush. This also has a bit of hard pan on it, but honestly, I've been too lazy to like take it off. I think this is also a very pretty blush. You guys know I love my cool tone pinks. This is probably another one of my favorite blushes of all time. It's just really pretty and really subtle. So I like that one as well, and not super duper expensive. And then not the last blush I have, but this is the Cover FX Monochromatic Blush Duos. This is in the shade Spice Cinnamon. This formula is one of my first all-time true loves. Like, I just love this blush formula so, so much. I am not sure what happened to Cover FX. I don't think that they're still a brand. They are not sold at Ulta anymore, and I honestly just don't know what happened to them. But this blush is stunning. This is like the perfect sun-kissed blush shade for me. I like that you have the matte and the shimmer side if you want a little bit more of a glow. It is quite pigmented, but it still blends out really nicely. It's not like overly pigmented where you feel like you are going to go overboard. I just think it's a really pretty blush formula. The packaging of it is also nice. It has that magnetic closure that I love so much, a really nice big mirror, and I just like that you get the versatility of both shades. And if you just wanted to use the blush topper, you totally could. I feel like it is pigmented enough to be your actual blush as well, and you don't have to use it as a blush topper. You can just use the shimmer shade as your blush. I like to do a mix of them just because I'm not a super big shimmery blush person, but I do feel like it is really pretty. I do like this formula a lot. And then the very last powder blush I have is this one from M Cosmetics. This is the Heaven's Glow blush in the shade Rococo. This is also a very pretty, just neutral leaning blush for me. This one is a little bit more shimmery. You can see that it's like shimmery in the pan. This is a more baked formula, so it is very, very soft. I feel like it never goes too overboard, but I do sometimes feel like it can make my face look a little bit too shiny and emphasize texture a little bit too much. I do think it's really pretty. I do like the blush, just it's not my most reached for, especially because it has that pearl running through it. I don't know, I just feel like it's a little bit texture enhancing. So I like it. I just have to be a little bit careful. I do feel like I can go overboard with this really quickly if I am not being super cognizant of where I am placing it. I do like the blush though, and I do like most things from M Cosmetics. This one is just not my most reached for powder blush. And that is everything. Those are every single one of my blushes. I hope that this was a fun little sneak peek into my collection. I know that I share my collection a lot with you guys. I know that a lot of these are quite pricey, but I do really like all of these. I am glad that I have them in my collection. I feel like I have a really good range of formulas, of shades as well, even though I do have maybe a little bit of a repeat, maybe a preference when it comes to blush shades, but who doesn't, honestly? Blush is my favorite step in my makeup routine, so I know that I have a lot, but I love them so, so much. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that this was insightful into the products that I have in my collection, and yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!